Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Aviator, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, as well as Kate Blanchett, Kate Beckinsale, John C. Reilly, Alec Baldwin, Alan Alda, Ian Holm, Danny Houston, Gwen Stefani, and Jude Law, barely. And the last two, I say barely, directed by Martin Scorsese. Now, I have seen this before, and I remember being kind of bored with it, but let me see if that still remains true. Let's get into the movie. As a young boy, Howard Hughes tries to stay away from germs and spells quarantine while taking a bath. And I thought, what was the point of that scene? As this is 2 hours and 50 minutes of some scenes could be cut out. And like this entire beginning, for example, in 1927, which is what I'm about to talk about, in Hollywood, an adult Howard, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is at the end of filmmaking the movie Hell's Angels after 1 year, and while on the set, he meets Noah Dietrich, played by John C. Reilly, and hires him as his assistant. As this movie is about Howard Hughes as an aviator man, not a film director or a germ free. But he is a germ free man, although it comes back in two germs and forth. It comes back and forth sometimes in the movie. And Scorsese makes the cinematography look good, but it looks a hell of a lot like a painting shots. This movie looks like a painting, while Howard has 24 cameras and needs two more by a Saturday. And I didn't bring it up in the Gangs of New York, but Scorsese can't get DiCaprio pulling off the accent, as it was noticeable in Gangs of New York, but or it wasn't as noticeable in Gangs of New York, but here, unfortunately, does get noticeable. And he needs to lose the accent at this point. Howard hires Professor Fitz, played by Ian Holm, as he can't find clouds, which is his profession in this movie. And 8 months later, they finally get some clouds and film the climax of the movie, as the score is in this scene sounds like the music from the movie Fantasia, as the movie is finally completed after 2 years, and they go to a movie with sound, and he wants to add some noise in the music in this film. And is all of this supposed to be fascinating me? Because unfortunately it isn't. And I am bored as hell during these scenes. Like, that's the kind of thing that's supposed to make me be making me thrilled, but here it's boring. The movie has a premiere with Howard coming in with Jean Harlow, played by briefly by Gwen Stefani, as the scene was flashing the lights quite a bit. And I said during Cruella that I'm photosensitive, as it was hurting my eyes quite a bit, but here it's a little bit worse, as I get the impression it hurts his eyes as well, and hurts his lights or his eyes, I'll say. And DiCaprio does a fine job with the role of Howard Hughes, but the accent has got to go. After the film premiere, we see Howard on the beach on a plane as he visits Katharine Hepburn, played by Kate Blanchett, and plays golf with her. And Kate Blanchett's accent as Katharine Hepburn is annoying in this entire movie, but hell, that's what she sounds like. And this is the movie where she won the Oscar, and I, for the life of me, can't remember whom she went up against for that year. And this is when the movie should have continued after the quarantine scene, although that scene could have been cut out too. Maybe it should have started here. Howard wants to design planes as he talks with Jack Fry, played by Danny Houston, as I don't like looking at him here. And like in the Alfred Hitchcock biopic, he feels like a slime caricature. Howard and Catherine are at a dinner table with John Mayer, played by Adam Scott, and Errol Flynn, played briefly by Jude Law, as Howard is eating peas that look like a hell of a lot like something blue. And I was watching this on my iPhone, and I'm thinking this movie is broken because of the cinematography, as it felt like a real problem. Howard and Catherine go flying as he gives Catherine the wheel, and when they fly, I swear to God, it looks like a green screen, as this movie is pretty like a painting, but it's absolutely boring. But there is a reason this movie wins Best Cinematography at the Oscars. They arrive at Howard's house and get comfortable, and the next thing you know, Howard is rubbing his airplane like he's rubbing Catherine's back. As they test his aviation skills on September 13th, 1935, as he's flying pretty damn fast with his aviation skills, and it's honestly not as exciting as the plane crash later in the film, as he's falling down to a crop section, excuse me very much, and he thinks the plane will go faster as he gets a cut on his foot as he's the fastest man for the time, which I could believe for the time being. But this whole aviation thing is not my expertise, but it's the point of the movie as I was lost in this entire movie. Like, is this a movie about a man who made a few films in his life? Or is this a film about his aviation skills? Or is this a film about him leaking in milk bottles? Meaning, this movie doesn't know what the plot is, as it loses me for the entire film. We get the president of Pan Am, Juan Trippe, played by Alec Baldwin, who's supposed to be the antagonist of the movie, as he does have a menacing voice while at a party for Howard and Catherine talks with the mayor. He's encountered briefly by Ava Gardner, played by Kate Beckinsale, and next thing you know, Howard is in the bathroom washing his hands with a crippled, until crippled asks Howard for a towel, but he doesn't because he's afraid of germs, which is a heartbreaking scene. But yeah, it's losing me. Howard has dinner with Catherine's family, including her ex-husband, and I thought, what in the hell is the ex-husband doing there after their divorce? As Catherine has become a different person in the dinner table, and the scene is rather awkward as he tells her mother off, and the acting is fine at best, despite Cate Blanchett won the Oscar for the acting for this performance, as my opinion says it was not well deserved. Howard gives his plane a title called The Hercules, and goes to the Motion Picture Association to face what he did with the women's Hooters. I'm going to say that. And my biggest issue is this is a PG-13 rated movie, and that talks a lot about Scorsese's language, or talks like Scorsese's language, and talks like an R-rated movie, but without using the F word maybe until the end. But they're talking about a woman's Hooters, which makes me think of him as a pervert. And don't get me wrong, the cinematography is good if you like looking at a painting, and the acting is fine at best, but for half of the movie, I was bored at the beginning, needed to be cut out of this movie. Like the first 30 minutes, I'll say. Because the movie doesn't work, I want to tell you what it's about, as this is a movie showing the greatest hits of Howard Hughes' life. The idea loses me as I ask myself, what is this movie about besides the greatest hits of his life of Howard Hughes? I can't tell you because I don't have the answer to that. Catherine falls in love with someone else and decides to break up with Howard at the apartment, and moves out of the apartment and moves on to the new lover, as Howard takes it rather hard and immaturely and burns some of the things to get Catherine out of his mind, and calls Noah at 2 o'clock in the morning to ask for clothes at a store, which is unnecessary. Howard starts dating a 15-year-old named Faith Domergue, which is so freaking creepy. And again, what a pervert, as he's at a table with Jack and his wife, and Juan shows up out of the blue, as Howard wants to fly on the Pacific, and the script makes sense, but the movie sort of lost me when he flies somewhere rather too far to compete with Pan Am, which is impossible, but it's a biopic, so it happened in real life, but it makes no sense, and Howard goes freaking crazy. Howard meets with Rome, played by Willem Dafoe, about getting negative pictures of Catherine and Spencer Tracy together as a couple, which is an odd scene and could have been cut out. Meanwhile, Juan meets with Senator Ralph Owen Brewster, played by Alan Alda, as they try to shut down Howard while Howard sees Ava and takes her to dinner, while Ava is married and Faith bumps into Howard's car, and the paparazzi comes in as they build the plane, and Howard wants to buy another plane companies in a way that could be illegal, as he has no choice but steering a wheel. But he has to choose a steering wheel for the plane, and focuses on a man who looks like he's dirty, and Howard wants him fired. And as he repeats himself over and over again and spells quarantine like he did as a kid in the beginning of the movie, they test the flight on July 7th, 1946, and again, but the Fantasia score, really? I mean, my God, this score in this movie is not original whatsoever. There may be some that are original, but not all. The plane test, goes rather unsuccessfully. After an hour and 45 minutes, as he crashes, as this is the best scene in the movie, as it felt exciting in my opinion. And this is the crash I'm talking about in Beverly Hills. Howard survives the crash after the fire burns him in the face as he's hospitalized, and he has 6 months until he loses the Hercules, and the scene is well acted by Leonardo DiCaprio. The narration of Howard's planes and his movie Hell's Angels and on the radio made me think this is Howard Hughes for dummies, because it makes things very damn confusing for the film. Howard has wires while with Ava as he wants to protect Ava, as she kicks him out of her life while the FBI is searching at Howard's house. And because Senator Brewster wants Howard gone, as he goes to a meeting at his house, and he wants to go to war with Howard and have some good piece of dialogue with each other, as the scene worked very well. I'll give it that compliment. Howard goes crazy as he hides, sleeps, and leaks in milk bottles in a room, makes his fingernails long, grows his hair, and has a beard as Catherine shows up at the room and needs to speak with Howard as she gets married, and Howard throws her out while she sits in the room and tortures himself as he doesn't shower for many days while Noah comes in. And I get the impression he's depressed and acts like a madman, and Juan shows up for an appointment because, Howard had an appointment with him, as Howard doesn't want to sell his company, as he tells him Senator Brewster will get him bankrupt in court, and it'll lead to a good scene at the end of with the courtroom that'll take place 3 days later. And eventually Howard does come out of the room as he gets a visitor by Ava, as she has a drink and gives him a shave. And this isn't entertaining me, but what is entertaining me, he goes to the courtroom to face Senator Brewster, and Howard goes brutally honest and tells Senator Brewster to tell the truth himself. And we move on to the different days in the courtroom and tells Senator Brewster off, and Howard wins the case. And that was when the only fun entertaining scene in the entire movie, other than that plane crash, I'll say. Howard takes flight on the Hercules as it's a success, and Juan along with Senator Brewster lose the case, and Howard celebrates the victory as he repeatedly says the way of the future, as the movie ends like that. And I thought, what the hell kind of an ending is that? It bothered me as an ending so badly. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.9 out of 10. The performances are fine at best, as the only two entertaining things about the movie was the courtroom scene and the crash. But this movie is unfortunately kind of annoying. The movie looks good if you want to stare at a painting, which I'm not here for that. I'm here for a movie, which is a shame, as this felt like the greatest hits of Howard Hughes' life, and it lost me for about most of the film. The movie was boring, as it felt like Howard Hughes for dummies, as this movie at times got so damn confusing, as the ending was cringe-worthy. It was a cringe-worthy kind of an ending, and I thought to myself, what the hell kind of an ending is that, as it bothered me so damn badly. So, non-recommendable for this movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with the movie that Scorsese won Best Picture for, The Departed, otherwise known as. And until then, lose the accent, Leo.